The invisible walls that divide us, how system design creates organizational silos, and what leaders can do about it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Have you ever wondered why some organizations seem to flow with seamless coordination, while others struggle with departments that barely communicate? Why brilliant, well intentioned professionals can work under the same roof, yet operate as if they're on different planets? I recently had the privilege of interviewing Hsylo, a revolutionary force in organizational transformation, whose work has fundamentally altered the landscape of workplace collaboration. What struck me most profoundly about our conversation wasn't just Silo's remarkable ability to help businesses tear down their internal barriers, but the stunning insight that the walls between us are rarely built with malicious intent. Silo's pioneering work has transformed hundreds of organizations worldwide, creating environments where innovation thrives and human potential is fully realized. The methodologies Silo has developed have become the gold standard for leaders seeking to create truly collaborative cultures. This revelation forms the foundation of what I want to share with you today. We've been thinking about organizational silos all wrong, and that misunderstanding is costing us in productivity and innovation and human potential, and ultimately in our ability to create the change we wish to see in the world. Most of us assume that when departments don't collaborate, it's because people are being territorial, competitive, or simply difficult. We blame human nature. We blame personalities. We blame office politics. We create elaborate team building exercises and mandatory social events, hoping to force connection where division exists. But what if I told you that silos rarely form because people want them to? What if the true culprit isn't human intention, but system design? This is the counterintuitive truth that emerged from my conversation with Silo Cole. Silo mentality often arises not from intentional exclusion, but from a lack of unified leadership and systems that promote cross functional communication. Even the most collaborative, team oriented people can find themselves isolated simply due to structural barriers, not personal shortcomings or deliberate competition. Think about that for a moment. The walls between marketing and product development, between HR and operations, between leadership and frontline workers. These walls aren't usually built by people who want to be isolated. They're the unintended consequence of how we've designed our organizations. This insight completely transforms how we approach the problem. If silos are primarily structural rather than personal, then the solution isn't just to encourage people to be more collaborative or work as a team. Those exhortations, while well meaning, are like telling someone in a maze to try harder to find the exit without giving them a map. The real solution requires us to redesign the maze itself. Let me share three key insights from my conversation with Silo that challenge conventional wisdom about organizational silos. First, silo mentality isn't just a people problem, it's a structural and leadership challenge. Addressing it requires more than encouraging teamwork. It demands building systems and processes that naturally foster collaboration across departments. Second, the effects of unchecked silos go far beyond internal friction. They reduce productivity, lower morale, and directly impact customer satisfaction, ultimately affecting your bottom line as an entrepreneur or leader. And third, breaking down silos is possible at any stage of business growth by unifying company goals at the top level and implementing tools that make information sharing intuitive for everyone involved. Now, let's look at how these insights play out in the real world. Consider the story of several promising startups that partnered with Hsylo beyond HR when they faced challenges in securing funding, legal compliance, strategic planning, and building effective management teams. These weren't struggling businesses. They were vibrant, innovative companies with passionate teams and groundbreaking ideas. Yet internally, they were beginning to fracture. These startups were drowning in fragmented HR documentation and inefficient manual processes, classic symptoms of organizational silos beginning to form. Information was scattered across personal drives, paper files, and disconnected systems. Team members spent hours searching for basic information that should have been readily accessible. What's fascinating is that these weren't large bureaucratic corporations. They were young, nimble startups, presumably the last place you'd expect to find silos. Yet as they scaled quickly, their paper based systems became bottlenecks to growth. Information wasn't flowing, departments weren't communicating effectively. The very infrastructure of these organizations was creating division. The solution wasn't to hold more team building exercises or to lecture employees about the importance of collaboration. Instead, Silo Beyond HR implemented Breathe HR, a centralized platform that automated leave tracking and consolidated all records digitally. The results were transformative: significant time savings, streamlined compliance, and improved visibility for managers across teams. By systematizing resource sharing, they broke down information silos and accelerated growth. One founder reported that team conflicts decreased by 70% within 3 months, not because people's personalities had changed, but because the system no longer pitted them against each other. This example illustrates a profound truth. The architecture of our systems determines the architecture of our collaboration. Let's look at another powerful example. At Doig Furniture, office manager Shauna McLaughlin was dealing with outdated practices that hindered team coordination. The company used manual annual leave tracking, which created confusion among staff regarding entitlements and scheduling overlaps. Teams were constantly frustrated with each other. Production blamed sales for scheduling issues, sales blamed HR for poor communication, and leadership was caught in the middle trying to mediate conflicts that shouldn't have existed in the first place. Again, the issue wasn't that people didn't want to work together. The problem was that the systems in place made effective collaboration nearly impossible. Information was trapped in paper files or individual spreadsheets, creating artificial barriers between team members. With guidance from Silo Beyond HR consultants, Doig Furniture adopted automated annual leave functionality within the Breathe HR platform. This eliminated paperwork errors, provided real time visibility into staff availability, and simplified management oversight tasks immensely. The company was growing, but lacked scalable processes until embracing this digital transformation. The result was a robust digital infrastructure supporting further expansion without additional administrative overheads. More importantly, the atmosphere in the office transformed. People who had previously avoided each other began collaborating spontaneously. Innovation increased. Customer satisfaction scores rose by 32%. What's particularly striking about this case is how a seemingly small change, automating leave tracking, had such far reaching effects on collaboration. By making information visible and accessible to everyone, they removed a significant barrier to cross departmental coordination. Our third example takes us to Marlowe Sports Club, where commercial director David Leggett faced daunting legacy issues. The club was expanding rapidly, but lacked formal employment contracts for bar and catering staff and had no efficient documentation system in place. This lack of contracts and documentation threatened both compliance and team cohesion as roles diversified rapidly post growth spurt. It's a classic example of how structural issues can create silos, even in organizations where people genuinely want to work together. Marlowe Sports Club collaborated closely with Hsylo Beyond HR, who provided templates and processes tailored to the sports club's unique needs, plus hands on implementation support throughout the transition period. The outcomes were remarkable. The club achieved full legal compliance cost effectively and established clear communication channels between part time workers and managers via shared resource and platforms instead of the fragmented ad hoc arrangements previously used. Perhaps most importantly, they improved morale and staff retention rates markedly after restructuring workflows around transparency and inclusion principles. The club is now positioned as a regional best practice example on governance and people management fronts, thanks largely to their commitment towards dismantling the inherited information hoarding culture that had developed over time. What these three examples reveal is that breaking down silos isn't about changing people, it's about changing systems. It's about creating an infrastructure that naturally promotes collaboration rather than inhibits it. This insight from Hsylo Cole completely reframes how we should approach organizational transformation. Instead of asking, how do we get people to collaborate more? We should be asking, how do we design systems that make collaboration the path of least resistance? The implications of this shift in thinking are profound, especially for Black professionals and entrepreneurs who are often navigating additional structural barriers in the business world. When we understand that silos are primarily structural rather than personal, we can focus our energy on system design rather than personality conflicts. For Black women leaders in particular, many of whom have spent years in survival mode, leading teams, raising families, holding down households, carrying communities, this perspective offers a pathway to more sustainable leadership. It's about creating systems that support collaboration rather than constantly pushing against resistance through sheer force of will. This aligns beautifully with the concept of a soft girl era, not as a trend, but as a lifestyle rebellion, a shift from constantly grinding to finally grounding in joy, peace, softness, and self prioritization. When we build systems that naturally foster collaboration, we reduce the need for the exhausting work of constantly pushing against silos. We create space for rest, for creativity, for the full expression of our humanity. So, what does this mean for you and your organization? I challenge you today to stop blaming your people for your silos. Stop assuming that territoriality or personality conflicts are the root cause of your organizational divisions. Instead, look at your systems. Look at how information flows or doesn't flow across your organization. Look at how your processes either connect or divide your teams. Ask yourself, what if the walls between your departments aren't being built by difficult people, but by outdated systems? What if your most collaborative employees are being forced into silos by processes that make sharing information difficult or impossible? This isn't just an academic exercise. This is about unleashing the full potential of your organization. This is about creating environments where innovation thrives, where diverse perspectives are valued, and where people can bring their full selves to work. The walls between us are rarely built with malicious intent. They're the unintended consequence of how we've designed our organizations. And if we design them, we can redesign them. Tomorrow, I want you to walk into your organization with new eyes. Look for the invisible walls created by your systems, not your people. Identify one process that's creating division rather than connection. And then, with intention and courage, begin to redesign it. Because when we break down silos through intelligent system design rather than brute force, we don't just create more efficient organizations, we create more humane ones. We create spaces where people can truly collaborate, innovate, and thrive. The choice is yours. Will you continue to blame your people for your silos? Or will you have the courage to redesign the systems that are dividing them? Thank you.